What's up, guys? I'm Trey Smith.
And I'm Bailey Smith.
And we are the owners of Recaptured Values. And you are watching Teach It Tuesday.
Hey everybody, before we get started, you may hear some noises. That's our dishwasher. We're trying to do some dishes because we also live here too. So just so you know that we're real people. There's the dishwasher going. So if you hear that, it's probably going to go off soon, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So let's get started. Today we're going to be doing a different version of the Petite Stitchery's Juliet leotard. They have the baby size, girl size, and women's size of this pattern. We'll link it down below. Make sure you click the little arrowhead down below. Click it. Description pops open, and all the links of anything important that we share will be included in that. Sometimes we do miss that, so just comment if I say something in the video that we said we're going to link and you don't see it linked there. Ask in the comments and we'll gladly post it there. Sometimes we skip past a few things and miss them, so we're definitely human. Alright, so this time, instead of doing the lined version that we previously did, you can check out our other video. It's the Juliet leotard, how to make a leotard, I think is what it's called. And we did the lined version, which meant you cut 2 fronts, 2 backs, no neckband, and then you finish it off that way. Today we're going to be doing the neckband version, which means you only have to cut 1 front and 1 back. So you use less fabric, and so that's cool. And then we're going to be doing the flutter, adding the flutter to it, so I'll show you how to do that. And also we're going to add the snap panel to it. So you get to learn all those cool things and how to do that. So let's get started. I've already cut the pattern out. I'm going to be using a pointel fabric. It's my first time working with it. Absolutely love it. This is from Olga's Closet. We'll link it down below. We'll link their website down below. I'm not for sure if this is on there yet, but their pointel, regardless of this print and specifically, pointel, it's amazing, y'all. This is so stretchy, like, and it has amazing recovery. Like, look at that recovery. It like goes right back. It's so perfect, and like it's airy. It's really breathable. Like, I don't even know like what other fabric. It's just pointel. That's just what it is. And I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But then I'm also going to be using a ribbed knit, the same ribbed knit that I like to use for tights for the flutter. So here's my flutters. And I got a contrast pink color here because I think it'd be really cute. So let's see what I've already cut out here. And I'll tell you all the pieces that you need for this particular pattern. The pattern pieces, to do the banded version, you are going to have to pay attention to the pattern piece here. Let me get all this stuff out of the way. This is what the flutter looks like. You do cut it on a fold. Snap placket piece here, sleeve, and then of course with the leg band, this is a leg band, full piece. I like to cut it in half and cut on a fold. Same thing with the neck band. It's a really long piece of paper. I like to cut it on a fold. Alright, so what you're going to need to pay attention to on the front and the back pieces here to make sure that you get the banded version, you're going to see that this has 2 lines. The neck will have 2 lines. The dashed line is going to be your banded line. Same thing with the bottom here. The dash line is going to be your banded. So if you're not doing elastic and you're doing the bands on the legs, which we are doing today, we're doing the bands, you will cut the banded cut line here. Same thing with the snap placket on the front. The back is the same for both with or without snap placket. The front, you will need to cut the snap crotch line here. So I've done that. Alright, so here's the pattern pieces you need. You will need a front. And this pattern, actually the front is higher neck than the back. So that's the front piece. This is the back piece here, and I've just went ahead and matched up the shoulder seams, right sides together, just to get that kind of done there. So that's the only seam you're going to worry about first. We're not going to close these seams off. We're just going to do the shoulder seam because we're going to do the flutter, and I'll show you how to do that. So get these right sides together. You're going to need 2 sleeves. I'm going to do short sleeves. You'll need 2 leg bands here. You'll need 1 neck band here. And then you'll need the snap plackets. You'll need 2 of those snap placket pieces. And then you'll need 2 of the flutter pieces here. And I'll cut 2 here, just like this. What we're going to go ahead and do, I've put these together so you'll either serge or zigzag stitch right here on the top shoulder seam, right here, here, and here. Okay? So we got our sleeves, and what you'll do with your sleeves, I like to go ahead and sew my sleeves on the flat before I put them together. So you'll just fold this up about 1/2 inch and then zigzag stitch is what I use. If you have a cover stitch, you can do that too. If you have a cover stitch, you can do it in the round. But I like to do it in the flat because all I have is my sewing machine and my serger at the moment. So you'll just fold that and zigzag stitch it down to hem the sleeves. We'll do, and then here's the neckband. So we're doing the hot hem method. I fold it in half this way, and then I'm gonna fold it in half this way. Just making sure all my raw edges are lined up. Okay. Okay, so for the leg bands, you're not gonna finish those like a normal cuff because you're going to be adding the snap placket. So what you'll do is, really all you gotta do is you'll fold it together like this and you'll serge it along the edge of the leotard. What you're gonna do for your flutter, as you can see, your flutter, I like to gather these on the with a serger stitch. What you're gonna do though, instead of serging the flat edge, you're going to serge the curved edge, because when you actually gather it, it's going to pull the straight edge curvy to make the flutter. So make sure that when you're doing the gathering stitch, whether you use a straight stitch, a long straight stitch, and pull it yourself, whether you use the serger stitch like I'm going to do and pull it, or whether you do the zigzag over floss method, or however you want to do it. I prefer to do the serger and pull it. It's just, I found it the best so far. So you're going to do the curved edge. So we'll do that too over at the sewing machine, and I will be back to show you what is done. Okay, I do want to say that I didn't say a minute ago was when you do the curved edge and you do a serger stitch, I literally just did a serger stitch here, and I did it with my settings all on 0. All of my knobs were set to 0 just so it's a loose stitch, but it holds it all together so that I can pull this and gather. Alright, so our neckband. The neckband, you'll do it here and here. I've already snipped those points, but the neckband I do like to quarter. So you're going to need to match up those points that you snipped on the edge here to the side seam. Make sure you hold those, and then you'll get each side point here. Snip the side point and do the other, same thing with the other side, so that you have 4 equal points here that you will attach to your neckband, so that you'll have a perfectly even neckband. We've already finished the neckband here, $1/4 pieces. We've hemmed our sleeves up like this, zigzag stitch, 1/2 inch. Then we got our snap placket pieces, which we'll do at the very end here. Okay, so that's good. We don't have to worry about the snaps till later. Our sleeves are done for the most part, and then we'll go ahead and gather our ruffles. To mark the middle. So let me go ahead and pull that out. Pull that gather out just a little bit. You want to go much further, because I like to go ahead and mark the middle, which means you just fold this over, grab some sort of marker, pen, whatever you have handy, and you just want to do a tiny dot. So don't go crazy, especially if you're using a dark permanent marker. You only want to do it on the line, just enough so that you can see the middle. You want to denote the middle. Same thing on the other one, because that's the part that you're going to put on the shoulder seam. It'll just help everything go smoother. Okay, so what you're gonna do here, I'll go ahead and show you with this one. Okay. All right, so you see my tail is right here, and you can see I have some straight thread. I don't know if it's, there we go. You see that middle straight thread. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get right here to the edge, right here. Hopefully you guys can see this. And I'm going to pull it out of the tail. And so then I have that middle straight strand, and now when I pull it and I hold on to it, it's going to gather for me. And so you just keep pulling that to gather your entire thing. And honestly, if you want to go ahead and gather from this side too, you can. If you left that tail long, you can pull the same strand from the other side. You can pull the same strand from the other side and start gathering from that side. That will help you go a lot quicker, and then you can just gather to the middle here. I like to just go ahead and gather, and then I'll even them out once I get the bodice actually up on the table. I like to just go ahead gather as much as I can, and then I'll even them out because I'll still have my tail. All right, so I'm gonna scoot back since you guys saw that, and just keep on gathering here. Keep on holding on to that tail, the end that I pulled out, and I'm just gonna keep on gathering. Not really caring too much about measurements currently because you still have your tail out here. You will be able to spread some of these gathers out if it's too short or too long, or whatever. If you have too many gathers or you need more gathers, you'll be able to do that. I like to just get it gathered. So I'm going to keep on going here. Alright, so then don't pull too tight on your strings because they could potentially come undone. Not come undone, but you could potentially pop your threads. And that's frustrating because then you have to start over again. Alright, so then there is one that's kind of ruffled here. It does kind of make like lay funny, but you can actually press this to make it lay flatter if you wanted to. So that's that one, and let's go ahead and do this one real fast. But as you can see, it pulled the curved edge. We serged on the curved edge, but it pulled the straight edge curved. So if you were wondering how that works, that's how that works. It pulls that straight edge curved. So you still have that curvy flutter. You don't have to worry about all of that. Super cute. And then this one's almost done here. This is like the most time consuming part. Once you get these fluttered, or once you get the flutters gathered, it's pretty simple from here. Alright, so now we're going to determine the size of our flutters, and to do that, what you have to do is pull it just a little bit tighter so it lays a little bit flatter. Alright, so move those over here. Make sure you pay close attention not to cut these tails, because you will need those later. Okay, so what you'll do here, we have already attached just the shoulder seams. I serged here and here. If you don't have a serger, you can use a zigzag stitch. Open this up like this. Okay, so you have your shoulder seam, you have your arm side there. So what you're gonna do is grab your little flutter that you've done, and you're gonna put it right side down like this. So this flutter, when I flip it out, it needs to go like this. You see, right side down, right sides together, and then you're gonna put it in the curve. So as I can see here, I'm gonna need my flutter to be a little bit tighter to fit in the arm side here. They actually call for it to be a little bit, I think it's like a ½ inch from each side here, but it really doesn't matter too much as long as it just fits in the arm side. So let me go ahead and gather just a smidge more on each side here. Well, there we go. It tricked me. Alright, now let me see here. And then also you can cut your tail down if your strings start getting really long. You can cut this long strand down because you're not going to need it. But just make sure you have enough to pull if you need to, so that they don't get crazy, because they can get crazy long depending on how long you left your tail too. Okay, so here is my flutter. I like to go ahead and kind of just make sure everything, the serged edge is facing forward here. Hold my edges here, and I'm going to go ahead and tie one of my edges just so that I can make sure that it's not going to come undone. So how I do that is grabbing the one strand that I have out and the other 3 that are still in the serger tail and tying a knot. Tie a knot, not too tight because you can actually affect the ruffle here, or the gather. Tie another knot and then tie a 3rd one. I'm going to do 4 just in case. That one felt like it still had a little bit of tension in there. So I'm going to do one more. So 4 knots here I have tied to the end here. So we have that one closed off. And so I'm just going to go ahead and pull a little bit of my ruffles that way. And I just go through making sure that my seam is all even here. My ruffles are kind of pushed down so that my seam will lay flat where I need it to lay. You can see what I'm saying here. See how some of those pieces are kind of flipped back? I like to just go ahead, pull them in so that they're even. Okay. So then there is your flutter. And what you're going to do, like I said, is put this down right side on there. So that's pretty much perfect there. I'm going to go ahead and pin this with the mark that I made here. I'm going to pin that to the shoulder seam. And you're going to make these raw edges on the side here. So I'm going to pin that one down. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull this over and pin the edge here. I'm going to pull all my tails here. This is the edge that I did already cut or not. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull this over here and pin this edge here. And then I'm going to do, you can do one or two more in here. I find that one works pretty good. If you need to pin more, just make sure that your gathers are equal as you're going along here. Alright, so we got that one done. And then we're going to do two more on the other side. So this is the side that we haven't knotted yet. You don't necessarily have to, but you can if you want to. But I like to go ahead and pull it. We're going to have to undo a little bit of these gathers. Normally this doesn't take this long. It's just because I'm videotaping it that it's deciding to be crazy. But once you get the hang of this, it's not going to take this long. I'm just trying to explain it to you guys when I normally would just do it. Alright. So then you're just making sure that these are gathers are still even here. I'm going to pull some this way because there's lacking just a little bit here. And then you're going to make a pin like we did on the other side. There we go. Okay. And then I'm just going to pin right here. Again, like I said, if you need more pins, you can absolutely use more pins. It's totally up to you. So that's the flutter on there. And then you can snip your tails a little bit shorter if you want to. I still wouldn't snip them to the complete edge there, but I would snip them a little bit shorter just so they're easier to work with. So now we're going to do the other side, exact same thing like this. Gonna go right here, and then we're gonna take this over to the sewing machine and just baste stitch right here with a lengthened straight stitch. So let's go over to the sewing machine. All right, so here I am at my sewing machine. I'm just gonna go to a regular straight stitch and I'm gonna lengthen it to about a 4. And so all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over about 1/4 inch over my flutter here on the edge. Just make sure that your edge pieces here are kind of pulled out because they they can get kind of crazy, so I like to pull my tail just a smidge to make that part a little flat. Put it underneath. It's not gonna want to cooperate today. Oh, it knows it's on camera. All right. So once you get that on there, you can choose to remove your pins if you want to, or you can proceed with caution and sew over your pins. It's up to you. I don't recommend sewing over your pins, but I'm gonna do it. So, okay. So just hold everything down so that it doesn't shift. And then just make sure that you're still got everything exactly how you want it. Because once you base stitch over this, it's on there. You can remove your base stitch, but alright, that one looked a little silly. Let's go ahead, pull some gathers down here. That one kind of got a little flat there. Okay. And then we want to make sure this edge is to the curve here. Alright. So then that is your base stitch, which means when you take these pins out, it'll stay on there. So now that's on there. And then you're going to do the same thing with the other side. Alright, so we've got these base stitched down. So let's go back over here to the table. Okay, so we're pretty much done with the sewing machine now. So we can go ahead and cut these tails a lot shorter. I still wouldn't cut them all the way off, just because you do want them just in case you need to do something, fix something. And it's also good to serge them off if you're using a serger. When you go around, because if you go ahead and cut your tail short, you could miss a few of those threads, and that seam could unravel. So it's a lot better for you to not cut your tail short. So flip this over, it kind of got caught on that pin there, and then I'm going to remove my pins, and you will see my flutters. Remove all my pins so that I don't get hurt when I do these with the serger in a second. Okay, that pin's gone and that pin's gone. Alright, I think that pin's gone. Yes, okay. So you will notice that it still kind of moves a smidge, so don't pull too hard on that. Oh, I missed that pin. Okay, so what you can do if you want to do it like the instructions say here, what you would do is you would put your sleeve like this together, and then either way you're going to want to make a point here on the edge here, and the same thing with the other sleeve. You're going to want to put them together here so that you mark the point up here. And the instructions, I believe, say to go ahead and put the sleeve on like this, which you would put it on the shoulder seam here, that point that you just did, right sides together, you put that on there like that and serge around there. I like to put my sleeves on in the round, so what I like to do is go ahead and finish my sleeves off, serge or zigzag stitch here, right sides together, serge or zigzag stitch here, and then I like to put my sleeves on in the round. So we're going to do, like I said, I've already cut my tail short. We are going to flip this back like this. So I am going to put this back right sides together, and I'm going to match up my side seams, and I'm going to go ahead and serge those. Like I said, this is different than the instructions. It's just I like to do sleeves, inset sleeves I believe is what it's called. I like to do those. I feel like they give a much less wrinkle in the armpit area here. That's just what I like to do. You want to go ahead and follow the instructions. They're included in the pattern that you downloaded. But if you're watching this video, I like to do it this way. So this is how I'm going to show you. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can pin if you want to. I'm just going to pin right here just to kind of keep those ruffles down just a little bit out of the way. Pin right here. Do the same thing here. And so you're going to not do this one yet because you're going to want to do you're not doing the crotch curve yet because you're going to add the plackets in a minute. Now that we've got our gathers on there, we are going to go ahead and do the side seams here. And then we'll put the sleeves on. So let's go to the serger. Okay, so we're here at the serger and we're gonna go ahead and finish the sleeves. All right, so I'm folding my sleeves right side together. What you're gonna do is you're gonna put your hemmed edge underneath the serger now. Okay, so you're gonna go until the needle goes into your fabric. All right, so the needle's now in the fabric and it's actually into the fabric. So lift your presser foot, pull your strings tight, pull them around under here, put your presser foot down, and then cut it off. All right, so then when you do that, that seam is now completed. So this part right here won't come undone. All right, so we've already snipped that one piece. We've already made a snip here. If you haven't, go ahead and snip here. I could have sworn I did. I guess I didn't snip enough. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and snip pretty good so I can see it. Same thing with the other one, right sides together here. Folded edge or the hemmed edge in first. I like to put it under the knife so that I know that it's already underneath there. And I like to hold on to it, pull your serger tails, make sure it's out of the way. Okay, go until the needle goes into the fabric. And once it's in the fabric, pull your presser foot up, pull your serger tail tight, pull it underneath there, and then cut it off. Alright, and then that is what that looks like. It goes ahead and secures that seam for you. If you by chance forget to do that, you can leave your tail long and then just tuck it in that seam there. That works just as well. But I find this just a really simple step there. So that's what it looks like when you're done. It secures that seam. That seam will never come unraveled. So yeah, that's perfect. If you don't have anything to tuck your tails in seams, that's perfect for that. Okay, so what we're going to do is go ahead and serge the side seams here, like I said. Remove your pins if you have any pins in there. We're doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I think it's actually, yeah, that's right. It might be 3/8, but I like to do 1/4. And you just follow in the curves here. Follow the curves. All right, got that one. Again, don't cut your tails too short. Then move on to the other side here. Exact same thing. I like to go ahead and pull the tails out just a little bit so that they can get cut off. All right, so I'm gonna put the sleeves on the round here called inset sleeve. That's just the way I like to do it. So I'm gonna remove these 2 pins here. I'm gonna do one sleeve at a time. So what you do is the garment is now inside out and you're gonna put your sleeve right side in to the sleeve hole here. Like this. Match up the point that you snipped at the top of your sleeve to the shoulder seam. And then down here, the bottom of your sleeve seam, you want to make sure that your ruffle is still folded correctly because you don't want it to get caught oddly in your seam here. So your shoulder seam, or your armpit seam to the bottom seam of the sleeve. Goodness, it's hard to say. Okay, so then what you're going to do is make sure that your ruffle is still where it needs to be. And then you're going to sew the sleeve on in the round, cutting off your serger seam here on the gather of the ruffle. So that's going to require you to do about a 3/8 seam allowance, maybe a half. All right, so let's go ahead and make sure that you don't sew on your pin. My pin's not coming out here. Okay. And then you're just going to serge around. Like I said, it is going to require you to cut off a little bit just so you make sure that that seam on the ruffle gets cut off and it's not going to show. And so make sure you're removing that one pin at the top and the bottom so that you don't serge over that, because that's definitely not good. Serging over pins, it's not good. It'll dull your blade really fast. Alright, so we're almost back here. Almost back to where we started, so I'm going to remove that last pin here. Pull my tail over. Make sure that my ruffle is still going the way I want it to go. And then go over the spot. Started. Pull it. Cut my tail and then tuck it. Okay. Pull it. Tuck your tail. Perfect. Alright, so then when you flip this out, you'll see that the sleeve is now inside out. When you flip it right side, you'll see that the flutter and sleeve are now like this. And the fabric that I used is not going to make the flutter stand up. Depending on what kind of fabric you use, will make your flutter stand all the way up. This one's kind of droopy because of the fabric that I used, but I like that. All right, and as you can see, I didn't serge over perfectly, but we can just pick that out. That's no problem. The spot, that's what I was trying to prevent. As you can see there on the flutter, just a few spots that got missed, but we can pick that out with a seam ripper. All right, let's do the other one, and let's try to prevent that from happening so we don't have to seam rip again. Same way, sleeves right side out. The garment is inside out. I'm putting the sleeve into the hole here, matching up the point that I snipped at the top of the sleeve to the shoulder seam. Matching up the bottom of the sleeve seam to the armpit seam here. All right, and I do like to start right beside this armpit seam. It's just where I like to start. There's no rhyme or reason to it. You need to start wherever you feel comfortable starting. That's just where I feel comfortable starting. All right, and once you get it underneath the blade going, that's when I like to go ahead and move my fabric so that it won't come out of the serger seam. All right, so now I'm paying close attention to make sure that I'm serging off the seam that we did on this flutter. Remove this pin. Alright, pull all my tails out just to make sure they get cut off. Remove this last pin here. Alright. Overlap. Pull it, cut my tail. Then tuck my tail in the seam here. This is the easiest fabric to tuck through. It's got some holes in it. Okay, there we go. Tucked our tail there. So that's good to go. All right, so when we flip this out, let's just go ahead and see what it looks like when we flip it out. And like I said, you'll have to use your seam ripper if you did not cut enough off. This one looks much better than the other one. There's a few spots that are still not cut all the way, but like I said, you'll have to use your seam ripper to do that. All right, so there we go. And like I said, the fabric that I used was a little flimsy, so the flutters aren't going to stand up super beautiful, but they're still flutters and they're super cute. I just love rib knit fabric. So that's the flutters there. This will look a lot better when it's actually on a child. What you need to do now is go ahead and quarter up your neck opening. So I like to grab my shoulder seams here, shoulder seam in both hands, fold them together, and then you will get the true back and the true front points here, and here's the back, here's the front. And so you're going to want to snip those points. And your shoulder seams will not be your points because the back is lower than the front. So what you'll need to do to get your side points is match up those 2 points that you just snipped. And then you see your true side point is a little bit on the back side, about an inch and a quarter, inch and a half away from the shoulder seam on the back side because the back is lower. So you're going to do the same thing on the other side, match up your middle points, and then you'll see the same thing here. Shoulder seam, that's actually your true point there. Okay, so the neckband that we've already quartered up here, we already got our neckband quartered, so we're going to go ahead and attach it. Okay, so to add the neckband, I'm going to go ahead and flip this back, wrong side out, or inside out, whatever you want to call it. It's not really wanting to go. Okay, so I've already got my points here, and I like to put my seam in the back. And the way I'm going to attach the band is to put the back seam here, seam on the neckband. I'm going to put it to the back point that I snipped here, and pin it there. So then you're going to go around to the edge here and pin here, and then go around to the other edge and get your other side pinned. Right there. And then finally your middle point. Alright, so I'm going to start on one of the side ones here. I'm going to save the back for last because that's where I like to add my tag. And so I'm going to start right here on this pin. I'm going to go ahead and put the foot down, remove the pin, and then go ahead and serge. A 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then once I get the needle actually in the fabric, that's when I start moving and maneuvering. Make sure that your ruffle is not caught in this, because that would look really silly. And make sure that you're just stretching the opening. You're just stretching the cuff so that it lays flat with the opening. Make sure that you're just stretching the cuff so that it lays flat with the opening. And make sure that all your raw edges are still lined up from the cuff, 2 from the cuff and 1 from the opening. Alright, so now we're on almost to the back seam here. And so make sure all your raw edges are still lined up. This pointelle is holding up pretty well. I think I may have a new favorite fabric. Alright. Sorry about that again. I keep doing that. Alright. So pretty much, I'm sorry that you guys couldn't see that, but I was literally just serging around the neckband here. Nothing special. If you've seen a neckband or a cuff sewn on, this is basically the exact same way. And so this part is important though. If you have tags, and if you should have tags because you're supposed to be compliant, but I'm not the compliant police. But it is important to be compliant, so we always link that down below. I like to put my tag here, right over the seam here, and then just hold it steady, serge over it. Once you get through the needle there, you can let go of it because it's not going anywhere, and then you're going to overlap where you started, pull it, snip, and tuck your tail. And we're almost done. So there you go. Alright, so our neckband is now on, and we have a tag in the back. So we flip this right side out, and you will see the neckband. And then you can absolutely choose to top stitch this down if you wanted to. You could do that. It's totally up to you if you want to top stitch the neckband down or not. It lays pretty good when it's correct. I'm going to fluff my flutter up just a little bit. And then, like I said, this looks much better when it's actually on a person. Also because the flutters are kind of sad right now. But that's how that looks. And then now we're going to do the bottom here. So you're going to take your leg band that you have not finished yet. And you are going to open up the back part here. And this is the front crotch and this is the back crotch. Open it up. And you're going to go ahead and fold your band wrong sides together. And you're going to want to pin here. Right at the edge here. And then you're going to want to pin to the back here. Like so. And then when you stretch it, you can quarter it if you want to, or make a half point, a middle point here, which I think is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and just keep it pinned so I don't have to undo it. And fold it together. Find my middle here on my cuff. Or on this, technically a band, it's not a cuff because we're not finishing it. Find my middle point here, and then I'll make that my seam on the side seam. Alright, so I know that that point that I just snipped is going to go right here on this side seam. So that'll help me stretch a little bit more evenly. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go ahead and get this part started here. You're just going to serge this right on to the curve of the leg here. So then I like to make sure that it goes through my fabric, and then you can pin more here, but I'm not going to. Then I'm just going to stretch my fabric enough, stretch the band enough so that it's laying flat onto the curve, and keep manipulating your fabric so that everything's still lined up. And then you're going to get to this edge here that we've got pinned. You're going to remove the pin. Remove the pin. Okay, so then we can go focus on this part here, which is going to require a little bit more stretching. Alright, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is pull right here. This is what I meant by you could pin more. I'm going to go ahead and just pull it up so that it's with that curve. I know that's where it goes. Remove my last point here. Okay, so then you see that your leg cuff here, your leg band is now serged perfectly onto your loop. I did it again. I'm so sorry, you guys. But now you see the end result. You literally just pin your band onto the leg opening on one side, pin it, and then serge it onto there. Alright, so then my tail didn't get cut all the way off on here. But now I know that it's secure and will not come undone. Okay, and so what you can choose to do now is top stitch this down in the flat, which is going to be so much simpler, but I'm going to go ahead and do the other side first before I top stitch down. So before we get this on here, I'm going to go ahead and make my 2 points so that I know where the middle needs to go. Here and here. Alright, so folding it wrong sides together so the right side is exposed, you'll put it down onto your back part here, just matching it up, pinning it, and then that middle point that you did, you'll put that with your seam. Alright, and then this last part here, you will put right here. Like this. Alright, so then at least you'll get to see this one. Alright, so you're going to start it, remove your pin. Once it goes into the fabric and you've got your fabric secured underneath the serger, the foot, I like to go ahead and pull my fabric back. And you're just stretching the band enough to lay flat onto the opening. So it's just like a flat cuff. Making sure that all your 3 raw edges are still lined up, the 2 from the band and the 1 from the opening, and making sure everything's still lined up. And you're following the curves. Almost done. Remove this last pin here. All right, and so I'm just gonna go ahead and top stitch this down just to make it look really nice. Do that really fast. I'll show you. All right, at the sewing machine, I'm gonna go ahead and do just a regular straight stitch, lengthen to 3.5, and then I'm just going to top stitch the seam down beside here. So the seam is right here. So I'm gonna do about 1/8 inch here, just to top stitch that down, just to make it look prettier. Just an extra step, completely optional. That step's completely optional, but it just lays everything down flat like that. So do the other side here. So then we got that done. Now let's add the snap placket. Okay, so you're just going to clean up all your little edges here, all the little end tails that you have. Clean those up. Clean all that up. Okay. Alright, and then while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and seam rip the pieces here. Alright, so I'm just going to seam rip these pieces here as that piece right there. So you can see the serger thread showed through. So I'm just going to go ahead and seam rip it. So now we're left with this, and now all we have to do is add the snap placket on here. So you can see it's super cute, super fluttery, and when it's flat laid it's super cute too. And it'll look super cute on. Alright, so now we need to add a snap placket. Okay, so we have our snap plackets here. We have our bottom pieces here. I missed a few pieces here at the bottom. Go ahead and snip those while I'm thinking about it. Okay, so you're gonna need pins. First you need to do the middle. Find the middle. One side of the placket here, find the middle. So you find the middle and you snip it. Find the middle of this, just to make sure that you're matching it up. Alright. Here. My phone's being crazy. Alright. So you're gonna match this up here. And you're basically just pinning the placket to the crotch here and here. The back side will do the same thing. Find the middle. The middle point, find the middle on your snap placket, middle, match those middle points up just to make sure that your snap placket is even here. Alright, then we're going to go to the sewing machine. Alright, so what you're going to do is make sure that your edges are lined up here. That your crotch part here is lined up the way you need it to be lined up. And you're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance while making sure that it's flat here. Alright. You're only going to stitch the edges of here. So you're not going to stitch these edges here. You're only going to stitch that edge. Alright. Let's just go ahead and finish this one first. Where did I put my snippy points? Snippy points. These are called scissors. Something's going on with my phone over there. Alright. So then what you're going to do, once you've got this on here like this, we've put them right sides together like this, and then you've done your straight stitch across a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you'll flip this up like this. So when you flip it up, it's going to be folded a quarter inch. So what you're going to want to do is fold this under a 1/4 inch and then fold it back on itself like this. Okay? You guys see that? Alright, so then what you're going to want to do here is go ahead and pin it just to keep it in place. Make sure I got my pins here. And don't pin too close to the edge because you want to straight stitch it right here on the edge. Of course, I just lost my other pin, but I got some hiding out over here. Okay. Alright, and then so pretty much what you're going to do is straight stitch along the edge here with your edges folded as good as they can be folded. Alright, and then you're just going to straight stitch down to the edge here, and then you're going to back stitch. Alright, and then you're going to do the same thing here. My cat is meowing because Trey locked the cat out of the office. Alright, and then you will just snip off all that excess right on that seam that you just cut. Be careful not to cut the seam that you just cut because that would mess up everything that you just did. Same thing with the other side, and now you have one placket on there, but now you just need to remove your pins, flip this like this, and then when you flip it back on itself, the outside will look gorgeous. I have yet to get one that looks perfect on the inside, but it's the thought that counts. Well, this one doesn't look too terrible at all. I spoke too soon. You just flip it back. So that's what the outside looks like now. Flip this back, and then you'll just want to top stitch it down. And just be careful because you will show on the right side. So make sure that you're using a thread that you like, that you don't mind showing on the outside of the garment. Back stitch. Back stitch again. And then there's the placket. That is the placket. And then you'll just add snaps and you're done. I typically don't add snaps to leotards just because they're so stretchy and easy to put on. You just snip all these little points now, and that is your leotard snap placket. So we'll do the same thing really fast to this back one here. Exact same thing. 1/4 inch seam allowance here with everything flat. Alright. Move the pin. Flip it up like this. Flip my fabric down like this and then fold it back on itself like this. And that was actually the back that we did first. So this is the front placket. I just realized that. So this is the front placket, but this one's actually a lot simpler because the lines are a lot easier curved here. You're going to serge, or not serge, so. Down the side here. Same thing on the other side, making sure everything's still folded like it's supposed to be. Alright. Well, this little cutter thing's not cut. Alright, remove your pins. And then remove all these little crazy tails you got here. Almost done, guys. We just have to add the snaps, which is super simple with the cam snap pliers. Alright, and then cutting the excess off here. Last piece here. Flip this out. Make sure my points are lined up. Flip it and dip it. And then again, exact same thing. You're gonna top stitch this part here, which will show through on the back. So make sure that you're using a thread you like. Alright, that's a pretty perfect snap placket. That's probably my best one yet, so you guys got to see it. Alright, so there's the front snap placket, and there is the back snap placket. And they just go like this. When you add the snaps, they'll go perfectly like this. So let's go add the snaps. Alright, so with snaps, I have my snap pliers with the correct dies for the snaps I'm using the 16 long silver rings from Cam Snap. They are compliant. So what we'll need is 6 of these open rings. So I'm going to add 3 snaps. So you need 6 of those, 3 of each of these. These are the male parts here. And this is the female part here. Alright. So then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use a permanent marker. Be careful doing this and make sure that you hear me so that you don't think that I ruined your fabric if you don't hear me on this. So what you're going to need to do, this part will have the female, this part will have the male. So this is the inside and this is the outside. So I like to go ahead and mark the middle here. So I'm going to fold it this way so that when I mark right smack dab here in the middle, that's my middle point. Same thing here, but I'm going to only mark on this side because these are open rings. So if you mark on the wrong side, you will be able to see your mark on the side there. So I'm going to do that. And then you can use a ruler or some sort of object, whatever you want to use to measure to make equal ones on the side. And so I'm going to use this, and I'm just going to measure about 3/4 over to make my other 3 points here. Boom, boom, boom. So I've got my 3 points marked there. Do the same thing up here again. Be careful not to mark on your fabric. Same thing here. Bonk. Right there. And the same thing right there. Alright, so like I said, the male go on the top, because like any onesie that you have, you're going to want to snap like this. Hopefully you guys can see me okay. So like this is the snap, and this is how you would snap on. So you want the male part to go here, which is the pointy out part, and then you want the part that actually snaps onto it here. So you're going to put your male snaps here. So what you'll do to this, you'll grab this. I like to go ahead and put the male part into the top, facing in. You'll put your O-ring right here. You'll put this, and you'll try to get it as close to the middle of that mark that you did, and then squeeze, and it's on there. This is the best kind of pliers that I've found. You don't have to squeeze hard. It just goes in there, and then the long 16 size snaps I found to be the best in my opinion. And then you'll do the same thing on all the other little marks. Just try to line it up as best as you can. You might not get it perfect, but that's okay. They're just snaps as long as they serve their purpose. As long as they're not too crazy, of course. Alright, so get all of those male ones on there. Making sure that nothing's folded under, because that would be bad too. Because once these are on there and on there good, they're kind of hard to remove. Not impossible, but very difficult. Okay, so then your snaps here, that is the part that actually holds the open ring here. So that's the part that's going to go on the outside, so that's the inside. There, put that in there. Put that there, and do the exact same thing here. So I'm wanting the female part to be here. It's going to take a little bit to get it in there. Okay. Here we go. Got that one on there. Keep going. Last one, and then we'll be done. Woohoo! Oh. Longest video ever. I promise it doesn't take this long to actually make it once you get the hang of it. Just takes me a little longer when I'm explaining everything instead of just doing it. Okay, so then you'll just flip it, snap it, and snap it, and then that's your snap placket. So it's perfect. Perfect snap placket there. Alright, so let's see the finished result here. It's going to look a lot better as a flat lay unless it's on a body, so I'm going to go ahead and just show you the flat lay of this. This is how it looks. It's very cute. It's very fluttery. It's very girly. It has snaps, short sleeves. It's pretty great. So that's how it looks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe. Comment if you have any questions. Make sure you check out the description. It has all the important information in there. And let's see what else. I think that's pretty much it. A whole bunch of fabric back here. But yeah, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment if you have any questions. Check out the description. We include all the pattern information in there. All the good links to other stores, like the fabric companies that we use. Stuff like that. We put out a new video every Tuesday, so make sure that you hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a single video that we put out. We put out videos on days that aren't called Tuesday. So make sure you hit the notification bell, because you never know what we're going to do.